Antz. Spelled with a Z because this was the late 90s and we spelled things with a Z at the end instead of an S because we thought it was cool. The first movie released from DreamWorks Animation, which was literally made to spite Pixar and make it seem like Bug's Life was copying them because Bug's Life came out like 6 weeks after this did. And yeah, that's exactly what this feels like. This movie feels very, very rushed out. The animation is very ugly, for one. Now, granted, some of the animation in Bug's Life isn't that great either, but the animation in this is pretty worse. Like, Z just looks like they took E.T.'s head, like from the movie E.T., and just put it onto an ant's body. Everything about this movie looks really creepy. And, frankly, I'm shocked this movie is only PG. I am very surprised this movie is not PG-13, because it certainly deserves it. There's tons of profanity, innuendo, and it's actually pretty graphic with some of the violence. You actually see the corpses of the soldier ants, including a pretty dramatic scene where an ant dies in front of the main character. And on top of that, the movie has some very mature themes about one's role in society and rising up against your oppressors and individualism. Very complex, mature stuff, definitely geared more towards the older audience. Wait a second. A movie about an unhappy worker who decides to leave his position and encourages others to do the same. Is this Katzenberg throwing shade at Disney because he was unhappy with how they treated him? Is this whole movie a metaphor against Disney? Kids will find it boring and pretty hard to follow, and adults probably won't be too thrilled by the edgier adult elements. I actually hadn't seen this movie prior to reviewing it. Like, I knew it existed, I'd seen trailers for it, but being about 20 years late to the game and reviewing this movie as a 24-year-old man, I would definitely not let a kid watch this movie. Now for the million-dollar question I'm sure everyone's going to ask. Which movie do I think is better, Antz or Bug's Life? Honestly, I'm not a fan of either one of these films, but for different reasons. But I'd say Bug's Life is better simply because I'm not as uncomfortable with it. Like, I can appreciate jokes aimed at older audiences, and Bug's Life had a few of those too. That in and of itself is not a problem. But in Antz, it feels forced. It doesn't feel natural. Like when Looney Tunes first started out. Looney Tunes, when they first started out, were like, yeah, we're not those Disney Mickey Mouse cartoons. We're not that Disney kiddie fair. We're edgy. That's what this feels like. We're the adult alternative to Pixar and Disney. We're the edgy animation studio. We're edgy. Look how many innuendos and profanities we throw in because we're for adults. We're edgy. Just for the sake of being edgy. It doesn't feel natural. It feels forced. Now, I'm sorry to start this month and this year, in fact, on such a sour note, but I have to be honest on my thoughts. For me, Antz was certainly no picnic. So I would give Antz a C+, a 7 out of 10, and a 2.5 out of 5 stars.